First of all, I would like to welcome all of you, our dear panelists here, Miani Shira, Ambassador 𝗡𝗢𝗥𝗧𝗛𝗘, Professor Mahanta, Pramod Boroji, Pradyot, and Mmhonlumo Kikon, and of course me and Noborun are going to host this panel. Barring Professor Mahanta and Ambassador 𝗡𝗢𝗥𝗧𝗛𝗘, all of you, the four of you, are political leaders. So, all right, we are going to get to that in a while, Mmhonlumo. I would like to start by asking, all you political leaders, you contest elections against each other, you speak in divergent voices, but when it comes to Northeast interests, issues related to Northeast, can we expect all of you to, come together as one single voice? Can I put this question first to Pradyot?
I mean, your question being that can we all unite and speak in one voice for the people of Northeast?
Yes.
Well, if I was giving the same answer maybe 10 years ago, I probably would have said yes. But I'm not here to mislead people or lie to people in front of the television.
Yeah.
It is very difficult to speak in one voice. Even in your own family, you don't speak in one voice. But yes, there are a lot of things where we can come together where our agendas are similar. So I see that we don't have anyone from Manipur, but it's very difficult to speak in one voice from Manipur as of today. In Tripura, we have a bit of polarization, so it's very difficult to speak for the whole of Tripura. But then there are many issues where we can come together, which affects all of us. Whether it is development, whether it is communication, whether it is education, health sector, our economy, jobs, also about preserving our distinct identity and culture. Today, if Pradyot can stand up with Assam and speak proudly for Assam, one day someone from Assam will speak proudly for the indigenous Tripuris in Tripura. The fact is that we need to help each other out rather than compete with each other. Our numbers are too small. We are hardly significant in the so-called democratic arena of India. Maybe an Uttar Pradesh or a Chhattisgarh or a Madhya Pradesh or a Bihar, Bengal have far bigger numbers. But it is very important that, yeah.
So that probably is an important reason why the leaders from the Northeast, cutting across party lines, should unite, or as you very nicely put it, probably uniting on issues. Mr. Pramod Boro, you would like to add to it?
Thank you very much. It's an important issue. We have a conflict of interest, and it is not created in last few months or years. Since we can see that Northeast was united once, so it's broke into 7 sisters. So now we are thinking of uniting. So from where we want to start the reunion of the people of the Northeast, from top or bottom, and how to address this conflict of interest? Because if you stand in Delhi and you discuss something on the nation, then it covers all the entered India. When we stand in Delhi and you mention that is nation, then it's all India. And when you come to notice and you speak of nation, then it is one community, one tribe. So we as a community, we are a single community, but we call us a nation. Boro nation, tripura nation, all are called them nation. So in that situation, after 75 years of independence, why nation failed to understand this kind of conflict of interest and issues? That's in one part of the country, which is very important. That is one. So, what do you want to know from us? What is the present status, present states of our mind? What we are thinking now? In present time, we want to be united. This is the call of the time, call of the hour. We must be united for many reasons. One, alone we cannot progress. neither we can protect our, identity and culture unless we have support and help from each other.
Absolutely.
And also, we have to either educate the people who are in the policy-making body, or to make them understand that why this kind of issues are still exist, why Tripura is saying something and this community is saying something. These are all the Indian communities and they are native people, they are the indigenous people, but despite of that, why their issues are not addressed? So
Right.
socially, culturally, as a human being, we want to be united anytime.
Yeah.
But there are certain issues which
Right.
you cannot address, sitting in one place unless you have intervention from,
Yes.
Again,
Yes.
yeah.
See, what I'm trying to say and what he's saying, the same thing. We cannot survive in isolation. Nobody survives in isolation. But another point which I agree with what Pramod is saying, and I'm sure most of the panelists will at some point adhere to, the entire region of Northeast was viewed as a strategic part of India. It is an integral part of India. You have tried to, if you want the country to look at Northeast, they should also look at us from the point of view of our culture, our cuisine, the way of life. What's happened is, in fact, I was telling this to one of the senior government of India officials, you only react when a bomb blows off. You only react when
But
there's
again,
violence.
Mr. Kikon, if I can...
No,
bring
I'm
you
just
in here.
let me just
Yeah.
finish this. My point is that the new generation of Northeast, the leaders, the people, we are aspirational. We want to join hands. We don't want to miss out when India is rising. And for that, we have to unite because our common interests will have to unite so that we can march ahead. Otherwise, we'll be left far behind. So we have to set aside our petty differences and look at positives where we can actually be a part of the nation building or be a part of a nation where we are ignored. So we have no other option but to be together.
But again, don't you think something has changed?
Just a second, please,
Yeah.
don't mind.
Yeah.
I will add one point here. That's from my experience. Now, transformation is started. Earlier, what happened, I am a long-time activist from childhood. I am associated with Boro movement. So, at the time, what my realization was, after meeting many, the bureaucrats and politicians in that time, government and politicians or the bureaucrats, they think, of peace just to run the system. If there is any problems in running the system, they intervene. If there is no any problems in running the system, but still there is problem, they don't intervene. Now we can see the transformation in the top leadership, like Modi ji, and regional leader like present our CM. They are thinking out of box. Why there is no any rally, no dharna, no burning in Assam? Because we can see now the transformation is happening in the leadership. So that transformation will start in the society also. Then only we can think of that kind of change.
Just coming to that, Mr. Kikon, in the last 10 years, things have changed. It's like कि धमाका हुआ तो Northeast का खबर आ रहा है. PM Modi, the ministers have visited more than 50 times. It's being called the Ashtalakshmi. And yes, the communication has improved. Infrastructure has improved. And the communication between Delhi and the Northeast has definitely improved. And coming to, again, issue-based unity, Nagaland as one state we have seen. Say, for instance, the Naga issue. Every party, be it the Congress, be it the BJP, be it the NPP, be it the NDPP, NPF, everybody is united at least on the Naga issue. They have to. So yes, there is enough scope because there are enough issues in the Northeast which are common.
You put it well. I would like to draw your attention to a little bit of history because we need to compare then and now. Look at my 3 seconds of the review of history of the Northeast, since we are talking about Northeast. We'll start from just prior to independence. Lokpriya Gopinath Bordoloi stand on Assam because that time there was the Manipur kingdom, Tripura kingdom, and the Assam encompassed the whole of Northeast. The British India Assam. And it continued well after the independence. So if you look at the stand he took for the protection, preservation of the region, that's one seminal moment in history. Second is, prior to, say, the various states being created in the region, starting from Nagaland, the promulgation of 𝗡𝗢𝗏 in 1958 is one event which has impacted the region. So, I mean, I'm just taking you back to those moments to show you where we were and where we are now. Third is the 1962 incursion of China into the entire, I mean, they came till Tezpur. And I'm sorry to say that rather than giving us the required protection as part of India, the then Prime Minister only said that my heart goes out to the people of Assam. I mean, that was the attitude of the center. The fourth would be today, the 10 years that you mentioned. You know, at the center of India's future and India's politics, Northeast has been placed at the core of every discussion in terms of development. India cannot develop without Northeast developing. That is the theme today. So if you look at all this and you view today, what you have said is right. There are enough interests. The problems that exist today, most of which are colonial hangovers, we are trying to address. I'll just give one example before I hand over to you. One, in the past, you know, as a Naga from Assam border, I mean, bordering Assam, there were a lot of issues. We had, my constituency itself had the Merapani issue, you know, recently as 2014, there were some issues at the border. So I would not have imagined, and I didn't imagine then, as a young student, that we would be discussing as brothers, as neighbors, about demarcating a border between the four states. Because we have common cause. Unless we work together, there is no future for this region. And that is understood by everyone. I mean, when I meet anybody from the Northeast or anybody related to Northeast, outside of Northeast, we are like one family.
Right.
And that feeling is there in everyone. I think we have to develop on those common grounds and common issues that actually identifies, because outsiders, outside of Northeast, will look at you as, ye to Northeast ka hai. They are together. I mean, they are different from us. So I think when that othering by others is already a normal process, I think that itself is one reason why we have to get together to ensure that our future is better than the past. So on that ground, today you talk about Assam Chief Minister. I mean, he is not the Chief Minister of Assam alone. Today he is taking a holistic approach towards the development of entire Northeast. He is able to show the leadership that we want from Assam. Right. He is not a sectarian leader, he is not a leader of just one state. I mean, I want all our leaders to have that approach and that attitude, and I think that is something we need to harp on. And I think this conclave is right in starting with this particular question.
Thank you so much. So, Miani, we will come to you, but Noborun, let's go across to Ambassador Mukhopadhyay and Professor Mahanta. Maybe you would want to, keeping with the topic of unity and Northeast, maybe you would like to put across a question to Ambassador Mukhopadhyay?
Yeah, basically, Northeast today has been talked as one entity, especially in the center. They look at it as Northeast, the 8 states. But is Northeast one entity? That's the question that probably people in the region ask. Can there be one single policy for the entire Northeast? Or the 8 states have different needs, different requirements, different issues, and they need separate policies? Can we tag just Northeast as one for the sake of it? Or there is a thought behind it which is working? Yes, in certain terms it can be pressed as one entity, but also, as just mentioned by our speakers here starting, that the issues are also different.
Would you like me to?
Yes, yes.
Well, thank you very much, Naharun. And before I answer your question, let me thank Mrs. Riniki Bhuyan Sharma, Pride East Media, Wasbir Hussain for inviting me, and congratulations to all of you for your 6th birthday and celebrating this conclave. And I'm really happy that I've been regarded or accepted as a son-in-law, but let me also say that I'm new to the Northeast, and so please take my comments in that spirit. So I think the first thing that I would say to your question is, really the Northeast is not just a biological diversity hotspot. It's also a cultural diversity hotspot. And that together with its natural properties, natural bounty, most of all land, water, forests, and sun, are its greatest resources of all. So if we have to think of progress, and please, the title of this session is Politics and Progress, we have to think of progress as well. If we have to think of progress, progress has to be seen in terms of progress of each of these components of this great cultural hotspot and diversity. That means in some ways what we have to do is we have to expand the space intellectually, morally, ethically, politically, culturally, educationally, technologically, for all this diversity to prosper. I would say that along with this diversity comes a lot of, I wouldn't say necessarily conflict, but rivalry, competition. Competition for land, competition for histories, competition for identity. And these are things that are, are works in progress. But the kind of approach that we take, which is an approach of inclusion or an approach of exclusion, I think that is going to be the single greatest determinant of both politics and progress in the Northeast.
Right. Professor Mahanta, what are your thoughts? Do you think the region is Northeast ready to work and move ahead together as one single entity? What do you make? What are the key takeaways as far as Centre's approach for the region over the past decade has been? What are the key takeaways? What do you think?
Thank you so much, and my profound gratitude to all of you for having invited me to take part in this conclave. Well, this is an important topic, Northeast being, represented as one voice, or whether we can talk cohesively. Well, if you look anthropologically, we have about more than 270 ethnic social groups, 185 languages. So this amount of heterogeneity is really, it is very unlikely in any other parts of the world with this amount of diversity. That this very coexistence with cooperation exemplify the very essence of Northeastern region, that we can manage diversity, we can negotiate diversity, which is the basic essence of democracy and multiculturalism. So that way, but unfortunately, previously, look at the period of British period, Northeast region was one of the most globalized region in the world. Through tea and oil, through Chittagong port, we had connection with the outside world, with 4% more above, national income of the region. But look at the post-independence period. From land-linked region, it has become a landlocked region. It was conspicuous by a dependency syndrome, insurgency, rebel, armed violence, alienation, so-called stepmotherly attitude. And this was the essence of Northeast India in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. But for the last 14, 15 years, there is a transformative politics which is happening in Northeast India in general, and Assam in particular. Thanks to the conceptual framework called, 𝗟𝗓𝗓𝗓 hotspot, which is called, it's a 𝗟𝗓𝗓 is the basic conceptual approach that exemplifies that new spirit of transformative politics in Northeast India, mainly as many of our speakers have said. Dr. Himanta Biswa Sarma exemplifies that new personification of politics. That 𝗟𝗓𝗓 politics, it exemplifies what? That all of us have our distinct color. Nobody wants to get submerged. Nobody wants to put under the carpet. Everybody wants to have their identities. While respecting identity, it is also important to talk about cooperation. There is competition also. It's not that BJP will be given a free kick or run in Meghalaya or even in Tripura. No. They will compete, but at the same time, spirit of cooperation. That, look at the 24, 25 MPs from the region. When these MPs speak together in parliament for the infrastructural projects, for the overarching progress, what is progress? What is politics? Politics, as David Easton said, who gets what? Loswell said, who gets what, when, and how. It is the authoritative allocation of values in the society, as David Easton said. What is progress? Progress is not just economic development. Right. Progress is not just industrialization. We are the biodiverse hotspot of the region, of the world. So we need to protect our ecology. We need to protect our sustainable development. All these aspects have been discussed in NEDA because I had the opportunity to be part of NEDA in many such meetings. So it's not just a political meeting.
Yes.
It is also about the progress of the region. It is about human development. At the same time, having, develop, or you try to develop a healthy competition amongst ourselves.
Right.
But at the same time, talking about intra-regional cooperation, inter-regional cooperation, which has been highlighted by BJP's approach. Now, what is this BJP's approach? So, I would call it from the periphery to the core. That is the transformative politics. Udayan Mishra has written a book called Periphery Strikes Back. How does periphery strike back? Through insurgency, through rebellion. But this periphery has now come to the core. That is the transformative politics. That is Modi's politics. Look at the investment in highway. Look at the investment in highway. Look at the investment in railways, transportation. That is new Northeast India. Till yesterday, it was looked down upon as a burden. But today, Northeast is looked out as a 𝗟𝗓𝗏𝗧𝗔𝗦𝗧 with immense potentiality. Look at it has become the hub of foreign politics, Act-East policy, BIMSTEC, Bay of Bengal initiative, Ganga Mekong initiative. All these today inspire Northeast region, and that is the potential Northeast.
Absolutely. Sorry, would you want to go? I wanted to bring in Miani here, and as a young political leader on the panel, wanted to hear your thoughts quickly.
Thank you, Oidini. Thank you for having me here. So I'll just make a quick point here. After listening to all of the speakers here, I think we all made valid points. But for me, I think as leaders of the Northeast, we need to understand each other first. I think most of the time, people from outside, people from different parts of the country look at us as one block, as Northeast. But we all know how diverse the region is. But if we don't educate ourselves, if the leaders don't understand the other ethnic groups, their issues, then we cannot come together to bring our point across to the leaders in the center. Now, we know that Northeast is a small area. We have a very small population. To make our points, to make our issues be heard, we need to come together. And we have all seen that as a single community, we cannot make our voice be heard. So what I'm saying is that it is important for us to understand as leaders today that we have to stand in solidarity with the issues that other ethnic groups may have, other states may have, and understand that we need to come together first and then expect others to see us in a different light.
And these diversities are also within a state. You come from a region which still aspires for development, for growth, despite giving the most number of chief ministers to Meghalaya, the Garo Hills. What do you think is the reason for that? Why has Garo Hills lagged behind in a way?
The reason is quite simple and also complex in the sense that, Garo Hills is, if you look at the capital city, Shillong, it's in the Khasi Hills. So for development to stretch out to other parts of the state, it takes time because the main developmental activities will start from the capital. But in the past few years, in the past 15 years, I think we have seen that the developmental activities have spread out. And in Garo Hills, we are seeing changes, and it cannot be done overnight, obviously, and it is happening. So it's going to take some time.
Still takes some time. Pradyot DebBarma here, obviously, is always eager to speak, and it's always an honor,
you don't want me to speak, I'll keep quiet.
to have you. Well, talking politics, Mr. DebBarma.
Okay, please.
Talking politics, You are known to be extremely close to BJP leaders, both in Delhi
Also to
and
Congress.
the Northeast.
Also to Congress.
Off
I
late
have friends-
BJP leaders.
No,
Off
no.
late BJP leaders.
I'll tell you something, Navarun. My agenda is to help my indigenous people. And for that, if I have to talk to people from BJP, I will talk to them. I'll have to talk to people from Congress, I'll talk to them. If I have to talk to people from DMK, I'll talk to them. If I have to talk to nobody, if they're not helping me, I'll talk to neither of them. My point is, my agenda is very clear. I have to get my people out of a quandary. I would like to take something off from what Ambassador said. We are talking too much about politics, just because 90% of us are politicians here. Progress is very important. And we have to stop depending so much on individual politicians and depend on a system which will always take us out of this rut. Now, you asked a question to Miani. So many chief ministers, and yet Garo Hills is backward. Well, we have a president of India who is a tribal, has the problem of tribalism eradicated. We had a SC as a president of India, has the problems with SC has gone away. We have had Muslim, Abdul Kalam Azad, before that, Fakhruddin Ali Ahmed, has the problems of Muslim gone away. So we have to end this tokenism. I always keep on saying, एक आदमी को आपने सबसे ऊपर जगह दे दिया does not mean that you have solved the problem of the entire community. By giving Sachin Tendulkar Bharat Ratna, cricketers will not suddenly get from Maharashtra.
It's not always about tokenism, it's about leaders rising from a region. Yeah.
Leaders are only as important as the people.
Absolutely. No
so we've
denying
had
that.
some of the best leaders coming up,
Yeah.
and yet the region has remained poor. Bengal has produced some of the, I'm going out of Northeast, Bengal has produced some of the top leaders. Yet Bengal has been absolutely poor. Uttar Pradesh has created some of the tallest leaders. And yet Uttar Pradesh and Bihar have remained poor despite great leaders. So we have to understand at some point, are we only choosing leaders or are we choosing leaders who are going to help the community? So when we come back, so that's where Ambassador has spoken about progress. We pay too much attention to individuals, and that is where our problem goes off. If we have to develop a region, like many of our Pramod has said, we have to agree and we have to be sensitive about each other. Today the name of Dr. 𝗟𝗓𝗓𝗏 Sarma's name has come up. I don't look at him as a BJP leader. I look at him as a person who understands my community's problem. If I looked at him as a BJP leader, then you've already defeated the cause. I need to engage with people who understand my people's problem. So if someone is sensitive, I'm not saying you have to understand 100%. I'm not saying you have to agree with me 100%, but at least hear me out. And the biggest problem is we are talking, we are not hearing each other. The day we start hearing each other, we will become a much more powerful force. This conclave will be outside Guwahati. People from Delhi will come and listen to us. What we need is strong leaders who have spine, who can speak for a region. Someone like Mmhonlumo, he writes books. He may be a BJP spokesperson, but he has an independent point of view which is beyond his party. I used to belong to a party, Congress. I spoke out on CAA. I had an opinion. I may be wrong, I may be right. I had an opinion, I articulated it. I've got the rewards. I also got thrown out of the party. But the fact is, it is very important to speak your mind out, because if you are irrelevant to your people and only relevant to New Delhi, then you're not going to be around for very long.
So Pradyot DebBarma is okay with the CPIM and the Congress saying that you are close to the BJP as long as it works for your people, as long as it is in the interest of your people, you need to speak
Nelson
to
Mandela,
BJP.
Nelson Mandela also had friends in Libya, in Palestine. He said, whoever helps my people, I will be with them. America was with Pakistan for so many years. Today we are friendly with America. What is the agenda of America? Their agenda is their people come first. My agenda is that my people come first. My community comes first. I'm not like some of these leaders who change when the power is coming this side. I'm not in the ruling government. I'm not in NEDA. But my point is that at some point, who is more relevant? Your community, your people, or your party? Because that gives you perks of being in power. Power is not permanent, but people are permanent. And if you want to be relevant, you have to look at the long term, and that is to speak out for the people. And you can do this being in Congress, you can do this being in BJP, you can do it in Pramod's party, you can do it in being a BJP member as a Naga. You can do it. There is no need to be fearful. This is a democratic country and we all have a right of voice. We have a right of dissent. But we have to be honest, and at least we have to be honest first to our people rather than to those who are seemingly more powerful than us.
Right.
That is what I'm trying to say.
Nabarun, before you shoot your next question, I would like to ask Pramod Boroji, of course we would want to hear from you about the development that is happening in BTR, but I am interested in asking you, what do you think is more challenging? You've been part of 𝗡𝗢𝗏, you've been the leader of 𝗡𝗢𝗏 for so many years. What's more challenging, leading an agitation or governance?
I won't, find out anything challenging categorically. And everything is challenging.
Right.
And everything is simple, but it is the course of, human life. Like what he's saying, I wrote a small article a few days back.
Okay.
And in that I have seen the one between two countries, like one country that was enemy in last century, they had become friends in this century. Two communities, they were friends in many centuries, they became enemy in this century, like Manipur he has cited. He has mentioned Manipur, that's between Meitei and Kuki. Particularly the Bodoland is not out of all this, region, I mean the entire Northeast region. Right from British period, the conflict and violence is always there. And government of India, they are working since 1947. My personal problems in understanding that why the leadership failed to understand that we should reach out these communities, we should reach out the issues, and we should have some policy to resolve all these issues. Because they are in an important part of the country, important region of the country, which is strategic region of the country. And why they fail to think all these, major issues and have some kind of good policy to address those issues in many decades. When our present Prime Minister, he became Prime Minister, swearing and came to Raj Bhavan, then we had the opportunity to meet him. उसमें मैंने बोला था कि मेमोरेंडम लेके गए थे. We had the memorandums, and suddenly it came to my mind that today I won't give the memorandum to Honorable Prime Minister. So it was in my hand, but I didn't hand over the memorandum. So he was standing and receiving all the memorandum. Many delegates came and they went. So when we reached, he just asked the memorandum. And I said, sir, today I won't give the memorandums. So he said that why, please give me. Not said, just give me. Then I said, sir, we have given so many memorandums, maybe trucks and trucks of memorandums. But today something is coming from my mind and my heart that I will request for notice today. Then he said कि बोलिए ना, आप बोलिए ऐसा बोला. तब मैंने बोला कि सर आप नोटिस को प्यार दीजिए. मैंने उनको बोला कि आप सर नोटिस को प्यार दीजिए, इतना ही काफ़ी होगा, क्योंकि बहुत हम लोग के लिए प्राइम मिनिस्टर ओनली एक सोच है कि प्राइम मिनिस्टर है बोल के, क्योंकि नोटिस से जाके ना हम लोग प्राइम मिनिस्टर को मिल सकता है, ना हम लोग होम मिनिस्टर को मिल सकता है, हम लोग स्ट्रगल ही करता रहता है. देन ही सेड ओके, नाउ वी कैन सी दैट ही इज विजिटिंग नोटिस मेनी टाइम्स. तो उसमें अभी हम लोग का मेरा जो चैलेंज है वो बाकी लोगों का भी चैलेंज है नोटिस में. तो इसीलिए इंडियन पॉलिटिक्स का जो एक ट्रेंड हुआ उसमें एक लड़ो और ले लो, जो लड़ेगा उसको मिलेगा. सो ही इज फाइटिंग, एवरीबॉडी फाइटिंग. नहीं लड़के नहीं मिलेगा क्या? तो नहीं मिल के लड़के भी तो मिल सकता है. सो उसको कब सोचेंगे? अभी पूरा नॉर्थ ईस्ट के बारे में अभी बोला कि हमारे प्रेजेंट सीएम वो सबके साथ मिल चुके हैं, सबको प्यार दिया है, ही हैज काइंड ऑफ टू एवरी सेक्शन ऑफ पीपल एंड सबसे मिला है, लेकिन एक लिमिट तक, कहाँ तक इनको जाने देंगे? मान लीजिए मणिपुर का इशू है, आप कहाँ तक जाने देंगे? क्योंकि वो अलग टेरिटोरी हो गया, मतलब अलग स्टेट हो गया, तो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनली हाँ दे आर सेपरेट। सो कल मिजोरम में कुछ इशू होगा, अगर इशू बिटवीन असम एंड मिजोरम ही कैन सॉल्व, लेकिन इनसाइड द मिजोरम अगर प्रॉब्लम होगा तो वो कहाँ तक वो जाने देंगे? सो दैट काइंड ऑफ इश्यूज आर देयर वेयर we need separate policy. Of course, our Honorable Ambassador has said कि yes, Government of India, they have some policy now. 21 policy, इससे पहले लुकिस policy था, और हम लोग को देखने के लिए डोनर बना के दिया. So they are trying to address our issue through some policies which they think that it is correct for them. But हमारे लिए क्या है? Government of India डोनर नहीं होना चाहिए, हम लोग का गार्जियन है. तो एक गार्जियन, दे शुड नॉट बी डोनर, दे शुड बी गार्जियन, एंड इसको आपका ऑन बोर्ड लेके उसको सोचना चाहिए. एंड दैट ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन आई कैन सी नाउ. सो चैलेंज सबका है, सिर्फ मेरा नहीं है. एक चैलेंज वही है कि लोगों का सोच बदलना है. इफ द लीडरशिप सिटिंग इन दिल्ली और नेशन, उनका अगर सोच बदला नहीं है, अगर हम लोग का भी सोच नहीं बदलेंगे, तो आज के ज़माने में हम लोग कैसे जिएंगे? How we will survive? We don't have good roads, we don't have good schools in many states. अभी असम में बड़ा बड़ा रास्ता हो गया, इसका मतलब ये नहीं है, और त्रिपुरा में भी है, मणिपुर में है, बाकी जगह में जाएंगे तो रास्ता ही नहीं है. So उसके लिए हम लोगों को भी सोचना है, not only the leadership, हम लोग को भी सोचना है.
Yes.
Mr. Kikon, the main plank of the opposition in the Northeast against the BJP, the charge has been that the BJP is a communal party, not just Northeast, across the country. Now, opposition has only one thing to say about the BJP, it's communal. Do you think Nagaland is one state where this has been proved wrong? I mean, the opposition's charge, they think they will get away with it every time, but Nagaland, a Christian state, you know the number of BJP MLAs that are there, the leadership, BJP is in government, and it shows that people now across the region, enough of communal politics, enough of charges, trading charges. They want the politics of development. That's what Nagaland has proved.
Before I answer that, I want to appreciate what Pradyot said. You know, the challenges that we face in the region may be new to our generation. It's not as if our leaders in the past have not faced those challenges. The reason why the fact that you're calling us leaders, or the reason why we are in the field of representing our people, is because we take ownership of these challenges. I think that's one basic quality that we need to have if you want to address the challenges confronting us. And one very interesting point Pramod ji has highlighted is that we have to look at who we are. If you look at who we are, then we'll take matters, we'll take ownership of these matters that are before us. I'll just give you one example. In the past, and he made a very competitive statement, who thought that today America and China will be competing? In the past, using Upper Assam as their air base in 1941, the Americans came and actually transported ration and ammunition to China to actually throw away the Japanese. Today, the best friends are Americans and the Japanese. And they used our place actually to do that. This is a theater of war. This was a theater of war. Today, it has changed. So, the timeline is very important. Today, the opposition may say this and that. But in a democracy, everybody knows that the electorates are supreme. The electorates, and this is the case in the entire 8 states of Northeast, has responded that the opposition are saying this because they are still living in the past. The reality of today, 2010, I'll tell you one example. As a young leader, I went to a village in Dhemaji called Akajan, by road from Dimapur. I had to travel with my Bolero over a boat from Bogibeel Ghat to Akajan for 1 hour. Just a month ago, I went by road. I drove myself from Dimapur to Pasighat using the same road. It took me just 4.5 minutes. I mean, I was not speeding, but because the traffic was empty, over the bridge in Bogibeel Ghat. Times have changed. I used to go to Arunachal before, in Itanagar and other districts nearby. You know, in the past, there was not even one airport in Arunachal. But we only hear of helicopter crash in Arunachal. Today there are 9 airports. Can you imagine? I'm just thinking that quality of life has improved. Times have changed. People have responded. So the leadership today is able to maintain its validity and moral authority because it is sensitive to people's need. It is listening to people. Yesterday I would not have imagined there has been certain political arrangements like NEDA in the past also, during the past regimes. But why is NEDA very effective? Because chief ministers are talking to each other. They may be from different party. Gole in Sikkim is from different party. Conrad Sangma is from different party. Sometimes NPP and BJP fight each other in elections. But why are we talking to each other? Because we have only one concern, to solve the problem concerning our people. I think at the center of today's leadership and their politics is the people that they represent. So I would say that the cries that and the issues that our Maharaja has raised is today being addressed. Therefore, there is not much discussion on the the strength or the validity of the opposition's issue. Final point to your mention of Nagaland. See, it is not about Nagaland being a Christian state, therefore we have 12 BJP MLAs in Nagaland. That is a logic which is, I think, passé. It's all. Today, people are electing leaders because they realize that harping on what the opposition has been saying for the past so many years will not fit them. I'll tell you, in 2013, my last example, I went to a largest village in my constituency and I went to meet a 80-year-old woman. She told me, don't come to my house. You can't camping here. I don't have drinking water, so you fetch me water from the well, which is like 1 kilometer down. It's like all Naga villages are on the hilltop, right? So go and fetch water for her, because she's a widow, she lives alone. Then only let's discuss politics. 2013. 2018, when I went to her place, she said, thank you, come and wash your hands in my kitchen from the wash basin. Jal Jeevan Mission. I'm telling you, the problem of politicians in all the smaller states barring Assam is that every electorate wants us to pay for their children's school fee. They want us to pay for their healthcare treatment. Today, the Prime Minister has heard our cry. There is Ayushman Bharat. I'm telling you, there is insurance for people who don't have money to pay for the healthcare. And it is happening right in front of my eyes. Why would I not believe as a youth from Northeast?
Yes.
Can I just say some small point?
Sure.
I have to appreciate where there's good work being done. Navarun, you need to say that and I understand why you're saying this. Are you with BJP or Congress? You're seen with this. When the Udan scheme started, it connected Northeast. I'm also not only a politician, I'm also looking to the field of tourism. Today, I can go to Tripura from Shillong. It takes me half an hour. I can go to Arunachal. It takes me an hour. I can go to different parts of Northeast. Imphal could be once the airport is fully functional in Bodoland area. Why not? In Zero as well, right? So you have to appreciate that. You cannot be opposition just for the sake of opposition. When today, and then if I say that everything was bad before 2014, that is also wrong. So my point is, this is a narrative which has been set somewhere else. We have been neglected as a region for a long time. Somebody else's problem is somebody else's problem. We in our house, in our family, despite our political affiliation, have to sit down, discuss, and make sure that we are ready for when India is going to grow in a certain way, we cannot be left behind. So we have to be positive. And if we put party before our people's interest, and we only blame for the sake of blaming, or we only criticize, or we don't meet publicly, I'll tell you, we politicians, all of us, meet in the evening and we chat and have a good time. In the day, we criticize each other, and you think that we are enemies. There is no
That's
enemy.
some revelation.
Okay. And film actors, they say, I love you every day, and at night they sit together and criticize each other. The fact is, there is no problem. This is just a creation of, not your media, but a certain media, that we are enemies. Nobody is an enemy. We all having a channel of conversation. The fact is that we need to also make sure that the agenda is just not only us, agenda is also the people. Pramod said something very important. We all get along with the Chief Minister of Assam on an individual capacity. But if something is happening in Manipur, how much can he tread? If something is happening in Mizoram, if something is happening in Tripura, we have a problem in Tripura. You have to accept that the native people of Tripura have a genuine problem. We have a problem. Now, can I run to the Chief Minister of Assam and say, please solve the problem in Tripura? No. It has to be solved by Tripura state and the government of India. And if the Tripura state is not sensitive to the problem of the indigenous people, then the government of India will have to take view from Pramod, will have to take view from Miani, from Mmhonlumo, because they are also stakeholders, from the Chief Minister of Assam, and say, okay, we need to do something more. And that is called cooperation.
Yeah.
And that is how we can go ahead. Don't call this opportunism. Opportunism is when ये party power में आ रहा है, यहाँ में चला जाओ, ये party आ रहा है, मुझे ये post मिलेगा, वहाँ में चला जाओ. We are not talking about that. We are talking about using the best for the
As
future.
long as it serves the interests of the people, it's absolutely fine. It can, even if it's opportunism, doesn't matter.
No, opportunism is different. Opportunism is for yourself. Being smart is different. I'm not negotiating for me to becoming an MP or a minister. I'm negotiating so that my next generation can compete with everybody else, so that my next generation is ready to face the world. That is called legacy. Opportunism is become a minister.
Okay.
That is not important.
All right.
Can I just,
Sure.
I just failed to make one point, because I think when Ambassador Gautam is here,
Yes.
we have to also use his experience, to give us some insights on this.
Sure.
Because remember, Northeast may be the Northeast of India. But we also have to understand that geopolitically it is located in a very sensitive area. We have like 5 international borders. And you may like to think, that it will not affect us. But geopolitically, where we are situated actually impacts a lot of our thinking, perspectives, because we have borders with, for instance, Myanmar, we are having a huge crisis there. And China has always been at loggerheads, or they've always been aggressive. So we have neighbors like that. So sometimes we always say, that we can make friends, but neighbors are given to us by God.
Yes.
So coming back to his point, it's not because he resigned as Congress president I'm saying that, but he formed an indigenous party, People's Party. So I can listen to him for 2 hours, even though 10 years ago when he was Congress president, I could not tolerate the same opinion.
Okay.
So I want to say that these 2 factors, because,
Yes.
Professor Mahanta is also here, they can also enlighten us on how
Absolutely.
geopolitics impact our politics here, whether it does or not, So,
And that
Let's
needs to be
hear-
recognized.
no, the final point is,
Yes.
just because a problem persists in the region doesn't mean that our leadership or our people at the helm of affairs are working towards solving that problem. No problem of certain nature can be solved in a day.
Right. Yes. Would like to hear from you, Ambassador Mukhopadhyay, what Mmhonlumo Kikon just spoke about. I don't have to tell you what is going on in this region. Myanmar, of course, a lot of things happening there. How do you look at how things are panning out, and Northeast?
Thank you, Anitam, and thank you. It's been a real sort of privilege to be in this session with so many sort of really grassroots leaders, popular leaders of the Northeast, and I've really learned a lot. And let me just also pick up a little of the points that were made here. I think Miani ji's point about understanding within the region is a very important point. I think Pradyot's point about leadership and people, a very, very strong point. Pramod ji's point, about the struggle to be noticed, the struggle for attention, the struggle for acceptance that the people of the Northeast have faced, issues of connectivity and geopolitics and development that I think Mr. Mmhonlumo emphasized. But I would really like to pick up, to answer your question, to go back a little from something that Professor Mahanta said.
Yeah.
He said that at the time of independence, India was, Assam, or the larger Northeast, was more integrated to the international economy than it is today. And I think there is a very fundamental misunderstanding and problem that we face, which is that it was not the Northeast that was integrated to the global economy. It was a part of the Northeast that was integrated to an imperial global economy. The Northeast was integrated to the regional economy in other ways, through Sadhya, through the Monul corridor, through many other ways, through Bangladesh, through the Bay of Bengal. Let's not forget that. What happened with the British was that the Northeast became a completely extractive economy. It started off with oil, coal, rubber, rice, and finally tea. Even plantations are a form of extractive economy. Today, 75 years from then, the Northeast is still a largely extractive economy. It is still oil. Timber may have gone, but it's hydroelectricity. Meghalaya exports stone to Bangladesh. New extractive commodities have come up. New plantations have come up. Today, we want to expand palm oil plantation. So I would like to say that this is a completely wrong model that we have inherited and that we continue with. Because what is it? That economy required imported labor, imported management. The labor came from outside, the management came from outside.
Yeah.
And what have you ignored? You have ignored the human, the cultural, as well as the material resources of this place, which really depend on land, water, sun, and forests and people.
Right.
And that economy is sustained by small farmers. So we talk about connectivity. How much have we invested in the small farmer? We talk about development, industrialization, roads, highways, airports. And surely they benefit everyone, and I'm not against them. But how much? We talk about connectivity. How much do we talk about productivity of the small farmer? What have we done for the productivity of the small farmer? And that is aggravated and accentuated by the fact that the Northeast is actually not isolated geographically, if you ask me. It's isolated politically, because you have unfriendly relations with all your neighbors. With China, Myanmar, not only for our reason, it was a closed country for a long time. Bangladesh, we had problems with Bangladesh. We have problems with all our neighbors. So, I mean, in some fundamental way, neighborhood politics,
Yes.
has to catch up and has to link with the economy of the people.
Yeah.
And we are talking about the economy of corporates most of the time. Half the sponsors of your event are all corporates.
That's right.
Where are the farmers, producers? And my sort of greatest respect for Pramod Boroji for bringing up these, grassroots issues, and for Pramod representing the indigenous people of Tripura, for bringing up these people out into the limelight for us.
Yes.
So I think that's the sort of general point that I would like to make.
Right. Before I go to Professor Mahanta, I would like to welcome Nagaland Minister, a popular politician, and known to be the sweetheart of social media, 𝗡𝗢𝗙𝗓𝗓. In fact, we have the next session, Wasbir sir will be hosting with you. Coming back to the panel, Professor Mahanta, do you think politics of identity is having an impact on politics of development as far as Northeast is concerned?
Before answering your question, I'm also addressing to some of the observation made by my esteemed colleagues here. It is important to talk to people, it's important to have negotiation, but I think we have left one point behind, that is the role of institution and processes. Well, I had the opportunity to be part of the government for about 2.5 years. And I have seen in many years how institutions have been nullified and how bureaucracy is important. You may talk about a lot of things, you may talk about leadership. But if institution and the processes are not taken along, I think it is extremely important, it is very difficult to implement the dreams that you have. And Assam, I would say, is the example how those institutions for good governance has been revitalized. And you have talked about identity. I think, again, identity and institution and processes are important. How that identity has been incorporated into the system of Assam, let me give you how innovations have brought about. Like developmental councils, autonomous councils, not to talk about the 6 scheduled councils. So all those innovations have incorporated the burgeoning demand of 64 communities that we have in the state of Assam. So what I would like to say, those identities, if they're properly negotiated, if you have a sense of negotiation with each other, then you can develop and usher in the process of development. And when you talk about process of development, in case of Assam, we have 3 or 4 approaches. The first is eradication of poverty. Second is women issues. Third is youth. Fourth is agriculture. And fifth being the most important issues being given to the issues of health. I do not want to give you a lot of statistics, but these are the 5 pillars. That is the essence of Assam's progressive model. And when we talk about this progressive model, the philosophy that we have adopted under the leadership of Dr. Himanta Biswa Sharma is Antyodaya. What is the concept of Antyodaya? That is to reach to the grassroots level of the society. So it's not just the ethnic groups, but to touch the each and every individual of the society. And talking about even the minorities, even in the minorities where we have dropout rate is very high in education. So we have introduced a lot of innovative mechanisms so that those women who are deprived from education can be incorporated into this developmental model. The government of Assam has introduced 9 law colleges in those far-flung minority areas. And coming to Ambassador's viewpoint, when I referred to the developmental model of the British time, it was not to eulogize the British model, but the spirit that the Northeast India was connected. That spirit of connectedness has been lost during the time of 60s and 70s. That is what is the essence of my argument. And coming to our connection with South and Southeast Asia, we need to adopt a multi-tracking approach. For example, we are trying to connect to the students of Southeast Asia. In Guwahati University, we have one center called Center for Southeast Asia. Ambassador was also there for a talk. And we tried to bring a lot of students from Thailand, Laos, Vietnam, and to our neighboring state of our country of Nepal. What they do is they complete 1 semester. That is called Indian Studies program at Guwahati University. We transfer the credit to their respective universities and they go back. So we need to initiate through a multi-tracking approach, through education, through business, through connectivity, etc. And that's how I believe our dreams of bringing all those neighboring countries together will be a step forward. That's what I would like to say.
Coming back to the politics of identity part, Mr. Pramod Boro, do you think in the Northeast, in a way, the politics of identity and development go hand in hand?
Yes, it can go hand in hand, but I think it is not done. In the policy, there is shortfall in some, policies in the center as well as the states. So transformation is happening since last few years and decades. Changing happening since last few years or decades. But Northeastern people are fighting for protection of their identity for last half centuries. And what I understand, I'm coming from activist background, movement background. So what I understand, say people sitting in Delhi, their interests are different, and our interests are different. There is no, the matching.
Are we balancing it out? I'll also take a reaction from Miani.
It is now happening. Some people in the policy making body, they are slowly understanding the issue. The intelligentsia, the people in the policy making body who are the the main stakeholders, they give inputs and they give all the informations and changing happening. Sorry. That's why we can see the present present situation of Kashmir. That's the Kashmir issue is resolved. So it's a ray of hope for us also, because in previous time, the previous government, previous regimes, many times they didn't think that much seriously the present regime thinking, the present leadership thinking. So the leaders are committed, they are very serious, and they have understood the issues and problems. So in Northeast, we have small ethnic groups. They have their own culture and language. And as a nation, the nation interest may be different, but we have to protect this identity and culture. These are the important values, because the UN declaration is there. So everybody, know the what is what, how things are going. If Europe, it can happen. In other part of the world, it can happen. Why not in India? Right. That's kind of thinking coming on.
Yes.
I had to mention 2 points in what Pradyot was saying. That yes, we have a connection among us, among the movement groups. It is not like that कि we don't have any relation. हम लोग का सब relation है. लेकिन वो relation, वो बहुत अच्छा relation है. वो political level पे है, NIDA बनाया. पहले कांग्रेस का भी कुछ ऐसा ही फोरम था, बाद में निडा बनाया. जब निडा बनाया, that time वो मेरे लिए एक ray of hope था कि at least politically connect हो गया है, तभी अच्छा होगा notice.
Right.
फिर मैं डर गया था, I was afraid. It is an important point I must mention.
Okay.
कि एक टाइम पे जब underground सब में था, नागालैंड, मणिपुर, असम सब में underground था. And strong underground movement was there, 70s, 80s उस टाइम पे. कभी ये बात आया था कि पूरा underground लोग एक हो जाएंगे और नॉर्थ ईस्ट का लिबरेट के लिए रहेंगे. अगर ऐसा होता तो इंडिया के लिए बहुत प्रॉब्लम होता. तो उस टाइम बीइंग एन इंडियन सिटीजन, और इंडिया का मैं एक मतलब खुद को अच्छा इंडियन मानता हूँ, इसीलिए दैट टाइम इट वाज माय लाइक थ्रेट कि हाउ टू चेंज द माइंडसेट ऑफ द पीपल, लाइक यंग पीपल who are thinking that India is always have kind of stepmotherly and treatment and oppress the this region. तो वो हम लोग के लिए एक चैलेंज था उस टाइम, क्योंकि मैं भी मूवमेंट में था. तो ये अप्रोच हम लोग तक आता था. वी आर डेमोक्रेटिक एक्टिविस्ट, बट स्टिल इट केम टू अस आल्सो मेनी टाइम्स कि नॉर्थ ईस्ट के बारे में सोचना चाहिए.
Absolutely.
अभी क्या है, लीडर का सोच बदला तो नॉर्थ ईस्ट का सोच भी बदला. तो उसके लिए क्या है, अभी हम लोग के बीच में इथनिक जो इश्यूज है, आइडेंटिटी का जो इशू है, गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया और इसको सीरियसली लेना चाहिए. अभी भी मैं बोलूँगा, क्योंकि स्टिल समटाइम वी फेल. हम लोग असम में है, हमारा लैंग्वेज
probably till the time influx remains, the issue of identity will remain. Quickly coming to you, Pradyot, DebBarma, yes.
All right.
Identity, I'm always asked about question about identity.
Yes.
My point is, okay, since we are all such, I'll make it in a lighter note. India today has arrived. Everybody, when Prime Minister goes to New York, all the NRIs, they feel proud to be Indians. We all feel proud of the Indian passport. Atmanirbhar Bharat. That is identity. We feel proud of who we are. Today when I come and you give me a gamusa, that's your pride, that's your identity. How is that going to affect your development? The fact is that you can never be a confident and a secure person if you feel ashamed of your identity. So kindly never link identity, according to me, with progress or development.
Right.
America's greatest period was when they felt America, love it or leave it. Today, your confidence is the most important part of your personality developing to becoming a confident and outgoing person.
I have a case and example.
My point,
Can I add one point? And just to add to what Pradyot has said, identity has got a nuanced, layered issues. For example, if you ask me, I'm an Assamese in the context of Assam, but when I go out, I Assamese as well as an Indian. But again, I'm a vegetarian. That could also be an identity. So let us not fix identity into one box. So it has got a layered notion.
Let's listen
and
to
what is the
Miani
impact of
as well.
globalization?
Let me give me 1 second, then I'll. When I go to Delhi, someone says, "Where are you from?" I say, "I'm from Tripura." Which community? I'm from this community. When I go abroad, London, England, America. Where are you from? I'm an Indian. And there's a place in India called so-and-so, and I'm from there. No harm. What you are probably getting digressed is or confused is that misguided nationalism versus development. If I say, oh, there is a development project here, we will not allow them to work.
Yes,
that is different.
That's
Just
one question
coming
I would like to put
Miani.
across to Miani. Miani, we are talking about progress and politics, development, everything. In your state, Meghalaya, the railway project, stuck. So development kind of stuck there. Do you think the political leaders have not been able to convince the pressure groups?
In Meghalaya, we have railways actually in
Garo Hills, yes. The Shillong
Yeah,
project
but
is a non-starter.
when we talk about the 𝗡𝗢𝗥𝗧𝗛𝗑 Hills area, I think now the railways is going to come to 𝗟𝗓𝗡 Hills as well. But the politics in 𝗡𝗢𝗥𝗧𝗛𝗑 Hills have, I mean, if you look at the history, you can see that that has been a big issue, influx. Now, that has been politicized and, because of that, we have lagged behind in so many ways. Now, Garo Hills has it, and now I think 𝗟𝗓𝗡 Hills will be having it soon. So, what we are expecting is that soon enough, people will understand. Now, the biggest challenge that we have as leaders is to create awareness amongst the people, to draw the line where our identity is being politicized, to take away what we deserve, the development that is owed to us, but is being taken away in the name of identity. So that is a challenge for the leaders. So I think the leaders from the 𝗡𝗢𝗥𝗧𝗛𝗑 Hills would be able to speak more on that as to why they have not been able to, take people into confidence.
Yes.
Because I'm in the opposition. Even when I was a child, I have seen this issue being taken out of context and, things becoming violent and so on and so forth. So I think today people have a broader mindset and they are exposed to a lot more things because of the social media and the internet and,
so we can hope, yes, there will be really a connectivity
So
to
I
Shillong.
think it will be easier if the
Vande Bharat,
leaders are making
or a
more
Vista Dome
effort.
maybe,
Yes.
which can give a boost to tourism.
Yes.
We are running out of time.
Yeah,
Quickly,
absolutely.
quickly
Absolutely.
going to Ambassador Mukhopadhyay. The situation in Myanmar, of course, it's critical. And how do you see India's response to it? Of course, in Manipur, the state is facing a crisis. What kind of threat does it pose? And should we be more worried about it? Very quickly.
Thank you. I think the first thing I would say is that the situation in Myanmar is primarily an internal conflict. Its external spillover, as far as India is concerned, is still minimal. It's extremely minimal because we are talking at the most of about 30,000 refugees in Mizoram who are largely absorbed by Mizo civil society and government, not the government of India, and a very minuscule number, probably not more than 2,000 in Manipur. So it's primarily an internal conflict, and I think we have been slow to react. We have been reacting to the Myanmar crisis as though the military will reimpose its rule as it did after the pro-democracy agitation in 1988. By 1990, they had made, ceasefire agreements with the ethnic armed organizations and reasserted control over Myanmar. I think that has been a fundamental miscalculation because over the 10 years of vaguely civilian rule, first under the USDP and then under the NLD, an entire new generation came up that has completely sort of embraced the idea of freedom, genuine freedom and democratic freedom, and also the idea of a kind of federal union for Myanmar, which includes a sort of a fair and just place for the ethnic groupings, and there are a very large number of ethnic groupings in Myanmar. And I think we have been slow in the sense that we have still held on to the view that somehow military, by virtue of its military force, will be able to reimpose control over Myanmar. Today we face the situation that there is a big question mark whether even if, as and when Myanmar comes out of this conflict, whether it will remain a united country. You might face a balkanized country that is cannibalized by some of our neighbors, and we have been slow in taking on proactive democracy to try and keep the idea of a federal democratic or at least a united Burma possible. And the only way that can be done is through a much more federal democratic approach with a backseat for the military, and not by giving the military a kind of predominant place in Myanmar society.
Absolutely.
That time is over.
All right, all right. Now, Bhuyan, we've really run out of time completely. Thank you, Miani. Thank you, all our esteemed panelists. Apologies for not being able to give each of you enough time to speak. Of course, we would have loved to carry on this conversation, but maybe some other time in our studios, definitely. And thank you all. Of course, up next is another very interesting session with the Tourism Minister of Nagaland, 𝗡𝗢𝗥𝗧𝗛𝗡𝗙. Viewers, please do not go anywhere. You can continue watching our live telecast. We are also live streaming across our social media platforms. Please stay on. We will quickly take a break for just a few minutes, and we will be back with this very special session up next. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.